but I'm not big on protocol because it has many of the same letters as proctology. When I had first taken over the Ranger Regiment, I was in Afghanistan, and I was coming into the talk, and I saw one of my buddies from Denver, and he looked at me with that look of, what the hell are you doing here? The last time I'd seen him was in Bosnia in 1997. And when he asked me what I was doing, I said, well, I'm the Sergeant Major of the 75th Rangers now. And this big bad SEAL got tears in his eyes. And I said, what's going on, man? And he said, I was on Roberts Ridge, and I was pretty sure we were all going to die. And then I heard shouting and some gunfire, and I looked over my shoulder, and there were a half a dozen young Rangers in full kit running up a mountain into gunfire in thigh-deep snow to come and get us. And I knew we'd be okay. And this man that said that is truly a legend, and he doesn't speak about such things lightly. During the Battle of Haditha Dam, we were under a lot of artillery fire. One day we got over 370 rounds of incoming 155. And that didn't count the RPGs and the tanks and the small arms fire and the anti-aircraft fire and the mortars that were being shot at us. And in a brief lull, 2 young Ranger PFCs came running up to me in a haze of the smoke from the artillery explosions. And like only young Rangers can, they said, hey, Sergeant Major, can we ask you a question? I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. What do you got? They said, what are we doing out here by ourselves? And I said, well, you're deep behind enemy lines. You took a target that's way too big for one Ranger company, and your mission is to hold until relieved. And one PFC looked at the other, and he said, oh, this is a Ranger legacy task. Out of the mouths of babes. They get it. The youngest Ranger in here gets it. This is a culture. This culture has been around since 1756. If you read the novel Northwest Passage, it talks about Major Robert Rogers leading his Rangers back from a mission. And they'd been gone for months. And it was freezing cold. And they get to one point where they had one uncooked ear of corn to split between them. And they're eating this hardened, frozen corn. And they're less than a day's walk from the fort that they have to get back to. And Major Robert Rogers makes all of them straighten their uniforms and shave. So when they walk in there, they look like the mission that lasted a couple months was no big deal. That's just what we do. And that's the legacy that you guys are tasked with carrying on. When I first took over the regiment as the RSM and discussed it with Colonel Nixon, we decided we would change the Ranger haircut policy. And we did that for a purpose. The purpose was to tell everybody inside the regiment and everybody outside the regiment that you're changing. You are not the JV anymore. You never were. But everyone looked at you because you had the silly Bert and Ernie haircut, and they could pick out the Rangers. But I'll tell you what, once we started growing our hair, the one thing that separated us, you'd be in a room full of Deb Grew and TF Green guys, and you could tell the Ranger. Because his uniform was a little bit straighter, his pockets were all buttoned, and he showed deference and respect and courtesy to his fellow soldiers. That's the difference. That's where it all starts. That's how you get to the next level. That kind of self-discipline is what I was driving for. I actually tried to make the blue book one page, and I almost had a mutiny by all my first sergeants. They like that stuff. It baffled me, but we're stuck with the blue book. And the easiest way to live the standard for leaders is to live it every day. And if you make a correction on someone, just revert to rule number 1 of leadership. Don't be a dick. You're going to tell somebody to button their pocket, just reach over and button it for them. I'll tell you what, when you're a sergeant major and you button some PFC's pocket, they'll never leave it unbuttoned again. If you have time as a leader, always explain why you're doing something. Rangers are not stupid. You tell them the why, and they will get it, and they will understand it. And in those times when you don't have to tell them, you don't have time to tell them why, they will follow you because you've set the example. That goes down to the newest ranger who was up here on this stage tonight. All he has to do is try to do the right thing to the best of his ability every day. And if all of you do that and look out for each other, you are an unstoppable force. And why is attention to detail so important? Because it makes all the difference. In baseball, it's that center fielder who knows to take 2 steps to the left. It may be the significant other who remembers to get somebody flowers on their anniversary. It may be the soldier who function checks his weapon. It may be the Ranger Reconnaissance Company guy who double checks his halo parachute. Attention to detail separates the winners from the losers, the men from the boys, and very often the living from the dead. You need to continue to maintain your discipline and train hard. You may think after 20 years of war you get to take a knee and drink water. That is not the case. In case you haven't noticed, the world is not getting any better. And you are going to be called upon when things get totally out of hand and the politicians can no longer fix it. You're the multi-tool in the toolbox that's going to have to go in and fix everything with just a few hours' notice. And when you get the call, there's not going to be time to train. There's not going to be time to check your gear. It better be right. Because not only is this nation depending on you, but more importantly, your Ranger buddies depending on you. Let's not fool ourselves. We don't do this for the flag or the country. We do this for the person to our right and our left, our Ranger buddies. That's what this business is all about. We should never fail our comrades. That's one of the most critical statements in the Ranger Creed. No matter if you're a boomer generation or a Z or a Y or a millennial or whatever, people are attracted to this regiment because of the culture, because of who we are, because of who we've been since 1756. It attracts the right person. And it will always attract the right person if you guys maintain the standards. When the standards slip, people come here to be challenged. That's why a lot of people get out of the regular army. They're like, yeah, that was okay, but it wasn't what I was expecting. And it wasn't what they were expecting because they weren't challenged. Challenge is what drives you people. Challenge is the most important thing we have. And whether you do 4 years here, or 20 years, or however many years you do with the Rangers, and you get out and go back to the civilian world, you need to do 2 things. One, you need to have a plan. And that plan should include, how am I going to challenge myself next? And the second part of that plan is, how do I reflect the positive things I learned in the Rangers to such a fractured society and a fractured country. Use your heads, use critical thinking. Don't mindlessly forward everything you see on social media. Dig deep and make sure it's the truth before it stirs your emotions. When you get out and you're around your civilian counterparts, be the adult in the room. Be the one who tells people, hey, this may not be a perfect country, but there's nobody crossing borders at the rate they are now to get anywhere else. They want to come here for a reason. I am humbled to be here. I'm humbled to have been part of this regiment. And I just want you to remember, look out for the person to your left and right. Maintain your discipline. Focus on your front sight post. And don't pull the trigger until your brain's engaged. Rangers lead the way.
Sergeant Major, thanks for that awesome speech. We'd like to bring you back up here for a second. Don't worry, we're not going to make you drink that stuff anymore. Yeah.
Sergeant Major Birch is now being presented with a commemorative Afghanistan Special Operations Forces print, originally painted by Steve Patton for Junior Awards for last year. The first print based on Section 1 during the United War in Iraq. First Ranger Battalion would like to thank Sergeant Major Birch for his service to the 75th Ranger Regiment and the nation.
Round of applause for Sergeant Major Birch.
Dinner will be served momentarily. Please enjoy.